Great.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be unto you all. We are finished with ayah number 56, surah number 18, titled Al-Kahf. And in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala follows on the previous ayah, which talked about people who argue by falsehood to fight truth, and who have taken his ayat, his verses, his signs, his miracles, and the warnings that God sent them. They took all of this for mockery. They were mocking the Prophet, they were mocking the Quran, they were mocking God, and they were calling God God of Muhammad, not acknowledging that He is the God of the world. So in ayah number 57, with which we start today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and who is more of a wrongdoer than someone who has been reminded of the signs and verses of his Lord, and he turned away and he forgot what his hands have advanced. The commentary in the ayah, the commentary of the text of the ayah says, we have definitely put seals and darkness on their hearts and covers that they would not understand, and in their ears we have set also a barrier. And if you call them into guidance, they will never ever come to guidance. It's an amazing, very potent truth. They want what they want. So again, who is more unjust and unfair than the one who was reminded through the signs and miracles of his Lord, but he turned away from all of them and forgot what his own hands sent ahead or advanced. Indeed, we have put covers on their hearts that bar them from understanding it, and we have created deafness in their ears. And if you call them to guidance, even then they will never adopt the right path. Of course, as we explained before, when the Quran talks about blindness or deafness or handicaps, it's not talking about physical handicap. It is talking about people who put their hands in their ears to block it and to act as if they don't hear. This is what the ayah is actually referring to. That's ayah number 57, ayah number 58. And your Lord is the most forgiving, the Lord of mercy. If he seizes them for what they have done, he might have caused the punishment to befall them sooner. But there is an appointment time for them, from which they can never find a place of refuge. Here, the ayah number 58, is talk about Allah as most forgiving, most merciful, the one who forgives all sins, the Lord of mercy. If he were to hold people to account because of what they have earned, he would have hastened the punishment for them. But not hastening the punishment doesn't mean that they are relieved. They are going to come to an appointment at a specific time from which they cannot escape, nor can they find a place to hide. And those towns and villages that we have destroyed when they transgressed, and we had appointed a time for their destruction. So Allah is referring the reader and the community of the Prophet at his time to look back at previous communities and to heed the lesson Those communities like Pharaoh, the people of Hud, the people of Noah, they were destroyed. So Allah is saying, don't forget that these people were also more even powerful than you are. But when they did injustice and committed wrongdoing and denied God, when the punishment came, they could not run, neither could they hide. Then, briefly, ayah number 60 will explain a story will start a story between Moses and the young man who was helping him. So it says, and behold and remember, when Moses said to his young man here may be assistant, maybe a servant, maybe helper, maybe a student. It's not mentioned as to what his function is. But the word used in Arabic is fata, and fata is used for young man, okay? And fata is a young woman. So here it says, and behold, as Moses told his young man, I shall not give up until I reach the meeting point of the two seas, or else I shall go on traveling for years. The Arabic word for the word years is actually uh, decades. He is willing to go for decades to do that. So when they reached the meeting point of the two seas, they forgot their fish, and it made its way into the sea as in a tunnel. It went under the water and it ran straight as if it is running in a tunnel. And when they went further, he said to his young man, bring us our morning meal. We have indeed had much fatigue from this journey of ours. They have been walking in the desert and running without food for a long time. So when they got to that point, he wanted to have some food. So the young man told him, you see, when we stayed at the rock, I forgot the fish. It was none but Satan who made me forget it and forgot to tell you about it. And it made its way into the sea in an amazing manner. Then he said, Moses, that was that was what we were looking for. So they returned, retracing their footsteps. They went back on their own footsteps in the opposite direction. They wanted to go back. So they found one of our servants, whom we have blessed with mercy from us, and whom we have given knowledge from our own. Now, the real journey will begin here. So Moses told that man, the knowledgeable man, told him, may I have your company so that you teach me some of the rightful knowledge you have been given. And he told Moses, you can never bear with me patiently. And how would you keep patient over something your comprehension cannot grasp? The man is especially taught by Allah, and he has knowledge that even Moses didn't have, even though Moses was a prophet. And the point of Allah pointing Moses to seek that man out and to ask for his company and to learn from him is to teach us all that no matter how much knowledge or status you may have, you could still learn from others. So everybody has to be humble. So when Moses asked him to accompany him and to learn from him, he said, "You're not going to be able to hold on to your patience. You're going to lose your patience quickly. And how could you hold on to your patience for something that you don't understand?" Which points to the fact that this man is going to do certain things that Moses has not yet been exposed to before. Then Moses promises and he says, "Listen, you will find me patient if Allah wills, and I shall not disobey any order from you." Then the man told him, "Listen, if you follow me, never ask me about something until I myself start telling you about it." It's an amazing condition. He's telling him, "You're not going to be able to hold on to your patience." And Moses is taking the challenge. He's saying, "Okay, I promise you, I'm not going to interfere." Then he said, "Don't ask until I tell." And the first encounter was they both moved ahead until when they boarded a boat, he sliced it by removing one of its planks. Moses, in shock, said, "Did you slice it to drown its people? In fact, you have done something terrible." Moses dug a hole or removed the plank from the bottom of the boat, and definitely this puts everybody at risk. And Moses is saying, "What's going on? You've done something terrible. Do you want to drown everybody here?" So he told him, "Did I not say that you would never be able to bear with me patiently?" Moses said, "Please don't put me to punishment because of my forgetfulness, and do not make my course too difficult for me." So he's asking for two things: don't punish me for violating your condition and my promise, and don't put me through a lot of trouble that I cannot bear with. So they moved on, they moved ahead when they met a boy, and the teacher killed the boy. This is Moses' teacher, killed the boy. And Moses immediately, in surprise and shock, said, "Did you kill an innocent soul while he did not kill anyone? You have committed a heinous act indeed. This is as horrible as it can get. You're killing an innocent young man, a human being, and he did nothing wrong." Could you please tell him that we are 1874?
Yeah, there was some people that misunderstood. They thought they would cancel today, but it didn't. So he had to send out a message.
Okay, thank you. So if he wants to follow with his copy of the Quran on the phone, he could. We are going to ayah number 75, surah number 18. Okay, so the teacher told Moses, "Haven't I told you that you will not be able to hold on to your patience?" Moses, in answer, said, "If I ask you about anything after that, then don't allow me your company. You have now reached a point where you have a valid excuse to part way from me." So they moved on again, and they came to a people in a town. They asked these people for food, but the people refused to host them. Then they found there a wall tending to fall down. It's a wall that was about to fall down. So he, the teacher, set it aright. He fixed the wall. And Moses said, if you wished, you could have charged a fee for this. Of course, knowing that they refused to feed them, he said, why don't you charge them so that we get something to eat? And the teacher said, this is a point of parting ways between me and you. You're not going to follow me anymore. And I shall explain to you now the reality of things about which you could not remain patient. So he's going to explain to him three situations. Why did he expose the ship to sink? Why did he kill the young boy? And why did he fix the wall for free for people who refused to feed them as guests? Okay, so he goes on to say, as far as the boat's concerned, it belonged to some poor people who worked at sea. So I wanted to make it defective because there was a king across them who used to usurp every boat by force. He used to confiscate, capture every ship by force, and take it to himself. So here the teacher is telling Moses, the reason I made it defective because I don't want the king on the other side of the river to take advantage of the poor people and steal their ship by force. The second was, why did he kill the young man? So he said, as for the boy, his parents were believers, and we apprehended that he would impose rebellion and infidelity upon them. So, in other words, the teacher is telling Moses that the reason he killed the boy is that because the boy was going to turn a disbeliever or was a disbeliever, and they wanted to protect his parents from his compulsion that he may force his parents to become non believers. So, therefore, we wished that their Lord would replace him with someone better than him in piety and more akin to affection towards his parents and his kin. As you would see, these reasons Moses didn't know because this man who was teaching Moses was more knowledgeable. Allah gave him special knowledge from his. So, thirdly, ayah number 82, he says, as far as the wall is concerned, it belonged to two orphan boys in the city, and there was a treasure beneath it belonging to them, and their father was a pious man. So your Lord willed that they should reach their maturity and dig out their treasure as a mercy from your Lord. I didn't do it on my own accord. This is the explanation of things about which you could not remain patient. So for each situation, the teacher had his own explanation, and he tells us he did not make those initiatives on his own, that Allah has led him to do that. And when he gave the reasoning behind this, it was not his reasoning. He didn't think on his own. It was the guidance of Allah that led him to do what he did to the ship or the boat, to kill the boy, and to build for free or fix for free the wall that was about to fall. So, this is one of those great stories that Moses, where he was led to that man, guided by Allah, and when he reached, he asked him if he could accompany him and learn from him. He allowed him to, with one condition, that you do not, Moses, do not ask him about anything he does until he explains it to him on his own. So Moses forgot once when he did the ship, and he forgave him. He asked him the second about the boy, and the man told him, next time you ask, Moses told him, next time I ask you, then you are free from our agreement. You don't owe me a company, and I will not insist on accompanying you. So when he asked him the third time, he said, okay, you've consumed all of your excuses, and now we have to part ways. You go your way, I go my way, and I will explain to you why I did what I did, which we explained a minute ago. I hope this is clear. Ayah number 83, and they ask you about the two-horned man who has two horns. You know that helmets in the past, they used to fix some metal horn-like stands because they used it to hit others, their enemies with. So it worked like horns. So a man who was called the man with the two horns was in the history, and as I mentioned the story in the beginning of this surah, this chapter, the pagans went to the Jews to ask them, how do we test if Muhammad is a prophet or not? So they gave them three questions and told them, ask him those three questions. One of them was the story of the people of the cave, which we went over. The second, ask him about the double-horned man. And this is the story we're going to read right now. The third question was, ask him about the spirit from which man is created. So here it says, ayah number 83, and they ask you, O Muhammad, about the man with two horns. Say, I shall now recite to you an account of them. I'm sorry, an account of him. So it goes on to say, surely we've given him power on earth, and we've given him means to have everything he needs. This man was roaming the earth, east and west. And Allah is saying that we have empowered him, and we've given him means and tools and things of every type that he would need. And he followed a course until he reached the point of sunset, which is the west side of the globe. He found it sitting into a miry spring and found a people near it. And we told him, O man with the two horns, either you punish them or adapt good behavior with them. It looks like this man is kind of like working for Allah. And that's why Allah is giving him the tools. So he went all the way west, and don't ask me where in the west, but he went where the sun set, whether it is west of Hawaii or west of America, the United States, or which west did he go to? Because this is, something relative. So in any way, when he reached the sunset place, he found it sitting on into a miry spring. So, which means the sun set behind a horizon of water. So, is it the Atlantic? Is it the Pacific Ocean? Is it the Indian Ocean? Is it the East Ocean of Japan, which is the Pacific Ocean? Nobody knows. But the sun set into a miry spring, and found the people over there. It looks like those people were disobedient to Allah, and Allah sent him to straighten them up. So he told them, either you punish them or you adapt a good behavior with them. So, being a person who is sent by God, he said, as for those who do wrong, we shall punish them. Then we shall send them back to their Lord. What happens to them? And their Lord will punish them with a severe punishment. As for the one who believes and acts righteously, he will have the best life as a reward, and we shall speak to him politely in our directions. So he received the mission from God as those who are righteous, treat them well. Those who are wicked and they don't want to listen, you punish them, which means you kill them, and they will go back to God, and God will punish them further, severe punishment. Then he followed another course. Where did he go? It says, until he reached the point of sunrise. He found it rising over a people for whom we did not make any shelter against it. They could not hide from the sun, which means he went north. Why north? Because in the North Pole, the sun is never to set. But if he went to the Central East, like the equator, or a little bit above, like Japan, well, the sun sets on Japan. The sun sets on India and China and Russia. But if you go north, this is where the sun never sets. So he says, until he reached the sunrise, he found it rising on people that we have not given them shelter from the sun. Thus it was, and our knowledge fully comprehends whatever wealth and equipment he had with him. So Allah is telling us that was his plan, God's plan, to send him to the west, to send him to the north and to the east of the north, and he is describing what this man had seen in those areas. Then he followed a third course. Here it says, until he reached the point between the two mountains. And he found by them a people who were almost unable to understand anything said. And this place is said to almost be in China. but this is my speculation, okay? And there, they couldn't understand what he was saying. So definitely he is not coming from the same community as he has been roaming the earth. Mind you, in those early days, no flights, no text message, no international language, nothing. So everybody who travels, it's on his own, at his own risk. But this man seems to be a godly man who's sent by Allah to execute Allah's will. So these people who could not understand what they were told, they spoke to him and they said, O man of the two horns, there are two tribes of Yagug and Magog, or Gog and Magog. They are making mischief on the earth. So should we assign a tax for you on condition that you make a barrier between us and them?
Wait, what? I'm sorry.
Again, they said, should we collect money by way of taxing people so that you could make a wall between us and them? It's not in the southwest border.
Are you sure? Dude, I'm laughing because he's saying the wall between the two of us, and it's giving me a Trump right now. Sorry. But that's the reason both of us are laughing, because we're talking about a wall between
Yes.
two people. And he said it's not the southern border. Don't worry.
This is why I believe that this happened in China. It is because China has the greatest wall in the world. Okay? And it's a wall that they use for protection against enemy tribes that used to attack them. So they were complaining to the two horned man and telling him, Gog and Magog are mischief makers on the earth, and we are thinking to collect money by way of taxing people to pay you on the condition that you make a barrier between us and them. They wanted to be protected from Gog and Magog, the mischief maker tribes. So the two horned man told them, listen, whatever my Lord has already given in my control is better enough for me than the tax you are offering to me. So help me only with some manpower, and I shall make a rampart between you and them. So the instruction he gave them is, bring me big pieces of iron. And they proceeded accordingly until when he leveled up the gap between the two cliffs, he said, blow. They complied until when he made it like fire. He said, bring me molten copper, and I will pour it upon this. So he got iron blades or iron pieces. He set them up and he set fire to fill the gap so that the gap does not stand. And he made this gap filled with molten copper so that the iron would hold with the copper. And by the way, in any welding process, any welding project, if you weld iron with copper, they hold on to each other and become the strongest bond that nobody could break. So these are the materials the Quran is telling us he was using. So after building this, definitely it was easy then to pile up the dust and the mud, and to cook it with fire, to make it like uh, cooked wall or cooked, what is it? Yes, not ceramic, but another type of. It's like bricks. Bricks is a word. So right over the iron wall, he brought a lot of dust, and to let the dust hold on to each other, he turned it into mud, and then he turned it into brick-like wall by covering it with bricks, and then stones on top of that. This is what the Chinese wall is really made of. So the next ayah number 97, so they, Gog and Magog, were not able to climb it, nor were they able to make a hole in it, because in the middle there is iron, so they cannot break through it. Then, after he had finished the wall, he spoke to them, saying, "This is a mercy from my Lord. Then, when the promise of my Lord will come, he will make it level to the ground. When the hour is about to come, this wall Allah will destroy, it will crumble. It will be level to the ground, and the promise of my Lord is always true." So now he is talking as if he were a prophet and that Allah is telling him news about the future and the unknown. But to let the community understand that he did that service for them for free because Allah has given him the knowledge and the tools, then he is telling them, be careful, one day that barrier, that protection will be gone and your enemies will come. Those Gog and Magog will come out. And all of this he labels as the promise of God. Okay. And on that day, which is the doomsday, we will leave them, all people, including Gog and Magog, surging over one another, and the horn shall be blown, and we shall gather them together. And on that day we will bring hellfire, Jahannam, fully exposed before the infidels, those whose eyes were covered against my reminders, and they were not able to listen. Do then the disbelievers deem it fit that they take my servants as patrons beside me? Surely we have prepared Jahannam as entertainment for the disbelievers. Say, O Muhammad, shall we tell you about the greatest losers in respect of their deeds? Those are the ones whose effort in the worldly life has gone in vain while they think they are doing well. I will repeat this again. And number 103, say, O Muhammad, should I tell you about the greatest losers or the worst losers in terms of their deed? They do a lot of work, but it's in vain. It's going to go to loss and waste. And he answers himself, Allah, saying in the following ayah, 104, it is those whose effort in this worldly life has gone in vain while they think they are doing well. These are the worst losers. They think they are doing well by Allah. They think that Allah will accept their deeds, and they think that they are justified for everything wrong they do, that they are forgiven for every sin, and when they go to the hereafter, they will find a lot of blessings. But they are just living with their own wishful thinking. If you remember, we went over the story of a man who had two gardens, and he was bragging, he was boasting about me having gardens and you don't, talking to his friend. I have children, you have none. Again, kind of like taunting his friend. And he said, even if I go to the hereafter, if there is any such a thing, God will give me even better than you get. Too boastful, too proud, too arrogant. And in the morning, he found his gardens razed, completely destroyed. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. I wish I had not done what I have done. I wish I have not denied Allah. So here Allah is describing those worst losers as saying, those are the ones who rejected the signs of their Lord and the principle of meeting with Him. So their deeds have gone to waste, and we shall assign to them no weight at all. They will have no value to themselves, to the world, or to even their work. Whatever they did will be raised as nothing. Their punishment, or their recompense rather, is nothing but Jahannam, hellfire, because of their disbelief, and because they have taken my signs and my messengers for a mockery. Then the last few ayat of Surah uh, 18, Surah Al-Kahf. Surely those who believed and did righteous deeds, theirs are the gardens of Firdaus, the highest place in paradise.
Feel what?
Firdaus, Firdaus. This is the highest place in paradise, and it is the entertainment place for those who believe and do righteous deeds. Then they will live right there forever and will not wish to move out of there.
Can we,
We have just two verses to finish the surah. Okay.
Okay.
Say, O Muhammad, if the ocean were to be an ink for writing the words of my Lord, the ocean would have been consumed before the words of my Lord are exhausted. Even though we were to bring another ocean like it in addition. Mind you, Allah is not talking about a specific ocean, because from His perspective, all the water on the surface of the earth that fills all the oceans is one ocean. All of the continents are pieces of earth in the middle of an ocean. So to Allah, it's not Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, or North Pole or South Pole. To Allah, it's one great ocean covering the whole earth, with certain islands that we call continents. So the ayah is saying, even if the ocean is doubled and it's all full of ink, if Allah were to use it to write all and everything that He is writing, that water, that ink would have finished before the words of Allah had finished. What is this ayah actually talking about? The ayah is talking about the fact that had Allah planned to tell us everything that we ask for in one and the same book, the book would never be possible because the words of Allah are infinite. How could you write a book for infinity with endless chapters, right? Unless you have endless waters, in endless ink. So Allah is saying, in other words, do not keep asking, why didn't the Quran say this? Because some people are arguing and saying, if Allah wanted to say this, He would have said it. If Allah want, as if they know what Allah wanted and what Allah didn't want. And some others who are saying, and why doesn't He tell us everything He knows we need to know? Well, because you are created for a limited place in this universe, a limited planet in this universe, for a limited period of time, for a limited mission. Why do you want to know everything there is? This is arrogance. So Allah is saying He is not short of words to tell, but who's going to even consume all of this? Who's going to read? Who's going to learn? And when? Your life, if you take the whole life, would not even finish. Just reading, let alone understanding, analyzing, practicing, your entire life multiplied by 1,000,000,000 lives, it's not going to be enough. So recognize your limitation, man, and live within your limits. Then the last ayah, which is quite a telling statement, say, O Muhammad, surely I am not anything but a human being like you. It is revealed to me that your God is the one God. So the one who hopes to meet his Lord must do righteous deeds and must not associate anyone in the worship of his Lord. That's the finish line.
That's a,
That's the finish line for the surah. But let me explain the last ayah because I did not explain it. The last ayah is saying, say, O Muhammad, I am no more than a human being like you. The key word here is like you. Why is it the key word? It's because many, even Muslims, when you tell them, brother, the Prophet used to do this in this way, say, yeah, but he is a prophet. As if the Prophet is given, more ultra human capacity. And the Quran is telling all of us, say, O Muhammad, that I am a human like you. Like you means what? I feel sad, I feel trouble, I get upset, I get angry, I repent, I get angry, but I don't cross the limits. I feel sad, but I don't let my soul take me into depression. Okay? I miss people who depart, but I don't spend the rest of my life crying over them. So I am like you, but I'm exercising my faith to control what I do and what I say and how. So when we read that the Prophet used to do something, we should try to imitate him, unless it is something specifically special permit or license given to him. For example, the Prophet was married to more than 4 wives, but it is Allah who told him to marry those women. And after he married them, up to a certain number, God told him, now you cannot marry anymore, and you cannot even divorce one of them to remarry another one. So if you divorce a woman, you lose it. So there were gifts and limitations on those gifts that are specific to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Some of those we think, oh, why don't Allah give us similar gifts? But you realize that not all things were gifts in the positive sense. Allah, for example, told Muhammad to marry the divorcee of his own adopted son. And this was against the culture and the norm and the customs of his society. And it would expose him and his message to a lot of attacks, because Muhammad, the messenger, is marrying the daughter of his son. Because in those days, they considered the adopted son like your paternal child. So you cannot marry his divorcee, but Allah told him to marry her so that people would follow his footsteps. And it was at the expense of risking the defamation, risking his own defamation, risking the defamation of Islam. And he was reluctant to obey even Allah on this. And Allah, when He mentioned this, He mentions it in the Quran, and He said, you were hiding in your soul what Allah will declare promptly right soon thereafter. You know what we're after. You know that we are after to change the customs, and nobody in the community could risk doing that but you, and you must do it. So Allah says, so we married you to her. She was married by Allah. Allah did her contract. So not every time the Prophet got something, that he got something just for the show of it. One of the wives he married had 7 orphan children, and she was so old, much older than him, when he married her, just to take care of her kids and to give her the honor of being the wife of the Prophet and the mother of the believers. That is not easy for everybody. So he married widows, he married very old ladies, he married widows with children, he married the divorcee of his adopted child, adopted son, and every one of his wives has some circumstances for which he would marry her, either to make the spread of Islam easier or to connect to certain tribes so that they are not jealous of other tribes that he had married from. So here Allah is saying, the last ayah, Say, O Muhammad, I am only a human like you, except that I receive revelation from God. So any one of you who is looking forward to meet God, let him or her do righteous deeds and never associate in worship anyone with God. I'm sorry, my next appointment is 10 minutes away and I have to drive. So we'll just take your questions next time. Inshallah. Okay.
Okay, so the
Yes,
surah has
sir.
been finished.
Yes, this surah is finished. We'll start, inshallah, with surah number 19. Very beautiful surah of Mary.
No. No.
So we were having a disagreement as to somebody writing Arabic on wood and washing it away with water and then drinking that water. They said it is a blessing. And I say it's not true.